This is our COMM 375 final project. We're going over the audience of the Super Bowl. Our team members include me, Tatum West, Julia Chapman, and Campbell Olson. So, we're kind of going to delve into the audience and what makes the Super Bowl the Super Bowl. So, the Super Bowl is an annual championship game within the NFL that garners an immense anticipation in both the United States and globally. The Super Bowl's inception can be traced back to the early 1960s. It kind of originated from discussions between Lamar Hunt, which was the founder of the AFL, and NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle. At the time, the AFL and the NFL were rival leagues, and were kind of competing for fans and for players. And then in 1966, the two leagues merged and just formed a league with two conferences, the NFL and the AFL. The merger birthed the NFL and AFL World Championship game, which was later branded as Super Bowl I. So that was the first Super Bowl, and that happened on January 15th, 1976, and it was the Green Bay Packers representing the NFL and the Kansas City Chiefs representing the AFL, and the Packers were victorious. And then following the massive success from the first Super Bowl, the game transitioned into a more annual tradition and has carried on throughout the year and just garnered more and more attention, and people watch it all over the world, and it's a highly anticipated event. All right, and then more into the primary audience. The primary audience is super diverse, spanning over various demographics and lots of different age groups and categories. It typically includes adults 18 to 48 with slightly higher proportion of male viewers. It has audiences of sports enthusiasts, people who watch it for the commercials, people who just want to be in on the anticipation and be able to talk about it with everyone because everyone watches it. And then it also promotes, it's super popular and people host parties for it and get hyped up for it for a long time. And then additionally, individuals interested in food and beverage, technology, and advertising also contribute to the viewing of the Super Bowl.
Okay, so next I want to specifically talk about how we measure the success of a Super Bowl. So to measure the success of a Super Bowl, you basically combine the total estimated viewership, which is, tons of numbers and just individual people, but then you also want to look at the ratings, and I'll go into more about what ratings are specifically a little bit later. And then just by the general buzz before, after, during the game, if you hear people talking about it for weeks afterwards, you know that it was probably a pretty successful event. So to go into more detail, there's a really important distinction between ratings and viewership. While viewership is simply dealing with number of viewers, ratings deal with the percentage of viewers in a TV household that chose to view it. So out of all the TV households in the nation, this percentage of them viewed the Super Bowl. That would be ratings. And so over time, as the population grows, ratings is a much more comparable measure of success because, comparing viewers of a Super Bowl, like Super Bowl I, when it was a much smaller population, it's a lot easier to compare it with viewership instead. And then I wanted to go over specifically the most recent success of Super Bowl 58. And so they had a record-breaking viewership with 123.4 million viewers across multiple platforms, which was a 7% increase in last year's viewership, which was 115.1 million. And the cause of this success can be speculated upon for hours and hours, whether it was Taylor Swift or Usher or the Kansas City Chiefs being back for trying to go back-to-back. Who knows? We could talk about it for hours, but I think that it's really important for the league, the NFL, and also networks like CBS to try to figure it out, because ever since 2015, there's been, you can kind of see it, a decline in viewership, but over the past 2 years, there's been a really heavy spike in viewership, and there have been 2 record-breaking viewerships in back-to-back seasons. So, yeah.
Okay, so talking a little bit about the fans and the audience themselves, and a little bit of like other ways they form communities. For one is online, and they do this through social media use and also just their own personal like websites sometimes. Some of the major areas like they use would be like on Instagram in comment sections. They'll be fighting about their favorite players against another team's players, and they'll either have like fan accounts or they follow the NFL accounts and they're highly engaged with them and what's going on within the teams and everything else. These kind of communities are also found on X and Reddit. They also provide a space for the fans to discuss game highlights, share their predictions, and engage in conversations about all their favorite things. For creative outlets, there's several. Fans will make fan art of their favorite team or like highlight videos to like a really killer song in the background and post them on social media. A lot of it does happen online in terms of the creativity of the outlets. For example, fantasy football, groups of dudes will get together and like pick players, and then they'll like compete the whole season up until the Super Bowl, and then it makes that just even more of like a big deal for them. Fans also showcase their creativity with watch parties, the decorations, the food that they make, like do Super Bowl themed or Kansas City themed for this last year. And they will just go all out in that creativity aspect. Yeah. So in closing, we've talked a little bit about how the Super Bowl has evolved from a championship game in the 1960s to the global media event that it is now, with its most recent Super Bowl having over 123.4 million viewers across multiple platforms. The audience ranges for various demographics, and it can be very diverse, but the typical age range may be between 18 to 49 and men. Furthermore, it's more than just a game to some fans who are very into it and avid followers. They find a community online within other fans for their favorite team, or even sometimes like against another team, and it just sometimes they'll show their own competitiveness within that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.